Hi there. This is a presentation on open source firewalls by Group 5. On the first part of this presentation, we're going to talk about what a firewall actually is. And this presentation is given by Michael. What exactly is a firewall? A firewall is a network security device that monitors incoming and outgoing network traffic and decides whether to allow or block specific traffic based on a defined set of security rules. Firewalls establish a barrier between secured and controlled internal networks that can be trusted and untrusted outside networks, such as the internet. A firewall can be hardware, software, or both. The term firewall originally referred to a wall intended to confine a fire or potential fire within a building. Later uses refer to similar structures, such as the metal sheet separating the engine compartments of a vehicle or aircraft from the passenger compartment. The term was applied in the late 1980s to network technology that emerged within the internet when the internet was fairly new in terms of its global use and connectivity. The predecessors to firewalls for network security were the routers used in the late 1980s. Now, this is a basic illustration of how a firewall works. So we have the internet here, that is the outside untrusted network. We have our firewall here, in between us, and then our secured internal network. So we have our systems here connected via routers, and we get connected to the internet through our firewall, which is configured to block malicious traffic or connections that we are not expecting or connections that we do not need. So this firewall here acts as our barrier between our internal network that is secured and then the outside networks that can be the internet, which is less secure. Now, this is an example of firewall. We have the hardware firewall, that is the Cisco Meraki firewall here. And then we have a software firewall. In this sense, it's the OpenSense firewall. And this is the software interface. Now, the difference is clear here that we have the hardware firewall as a physical device that you can hold and that you can configure, plug cables in, and then connect it to your systems. And we have the software firewall here that you have to install on your computer and run it to make sure you are filtering your network. Thank you very much on this presentation, and I hope to see you some other time.
I'm Brian Kuhn, and I'm going to talk about open source firewalls. Open source firewalls are firewalls that are free to use. They're different than enterprise class firewalls, which require a fee. The enterprise class firewalls usually have subscription fees that can be expensive. Their code is also a closed source with very few contributors. However, enterprise class firewalls are really easy to use and flexible, and they tend to be very stable. They have a lot of support that is usually 24/7, and they usually have a lot more to offer than open source firewalls. However, open source firewalls are ones that are free usually. There's many to choose from out there. And open source means that the code is more open and people can contribute to it more. Most are Linux based, and most have versions that are 32 or 64-bit depending on the operating system. Many of these come from the enterprise class vendors who offer a little lower product for free or personal use, which is great, though sometimes these are not as easy to use or have less features. Also, they tend to be limited on support. So one of the good ones that is out there for an open source firewall is pfSense. The operating system is a FreeBSD operating system. It has a web interface for configuration and monitoring, which makes it easy to navigate and set up. It can filter content by its destination and source IP. It can limit concurrent connections. It also has an option to log traffic that can be turned on or off. It has IP security. It has a highly flexible policy for routing. You can also group and name the IPs, network, and ports. It also has quality of service to prioritize the traffic. It also has a vast following of users, so the documentation and user forms are good. Another one that's out there that is really good is ClearOS, and this is the community edition. It is also a Linux server operating system. It also has a web-based user interface, which makes it convenient to use. It offers firewall, networking, and other security features. It provides several levels of security. It also has quality of service to prioritize traffic. It can use two-factor authentication for higher security. It also offers IP security measures. It has the ability to manage peer-to-peer file sharing. It has intrusion detection and prevention. It also has VPN. It has web proxy and content filtering. And it also comes with great documentation and support, especially for a free edition, because it's tied to several other paid subscriptions. It kind of filters down to this one too. Another open source firewall is Untangled NG Firewall. Its operating system is also Linux based. It's virtual machine compatible. It has OpenVPN. It has QoS. It has virus blocker light spam, which is supposed to help block spam. It has a web monitor, ad blocker, captive portal, intrusion prevention. However, this one, to really get the most out of it, you have to buy little apps to give it the functionality, similar to how you buy an app for a smartphone. There's little apps that you can purchase to give this one more functionality. Another one out there that's really good is Smoothwall. It also runs off the Linux operating system and has a web-based user interface. It also has quality of service to prioritize traffic. It supports LAN, DMZ, and wireless networks. It has timed access to limit users when they can use the network. It has outbound filtering. It also is able to have POP3 email proxy with antivirus. It has traffic stats. It has UPN support, and it's able to block bad IP addresses. Another one out there that's really good is IPFire. Its Linux-based operating system also has a web-based user interface. It has stateful packet inspection, IP security. It has an outgoing firewall. It has a proxy server with content filtering and caching. It has intrusion detection. It is an open VPN, and it also can be configured as a DHCP server, a caching name server. It also has the ability to wake on LAN. It has a dynamic DNS and quality of service. The system can also be able to monitor and log analysis to track things, and the system can also be expanded with add-ons. Now, one thing about all of these that I've discussed is many of them have a lot more features, but these are some of the basic features that a lot of these have, and a lot of them have a lot of the same similarities. So I just touched on some that we have. Thank you.
Good evening, CIT270. Today we will be installing IPFire, which is one of the many open source firewalls out there. To start with, go ahead and head to ipfire.org/download here. You can just download this one, that's fine. I won't be talking too much through this video. No, I'm going to let the screen do most of the talking for me. I will speak up if there's something that can't be explained by the screen. So Linux, other Linux. I like to give my systems lots of RAM. This doesn't need it. It's Linux. It's already pretty bare bones. Hardly needs anything to run it, but I do it anyways. Makes it run super fast. Okay. Before we start with the actual installation, this is important. We need to add a second network adapter here. You can just use NAT. That's fine for our purposes. Figure out wherever you stored your disk and then pull this from here, the ISO, to start the installation. You can see a few options on here. You can flip through those if you like. We're just going to go ahead and install here. To navigate through our menu, just use the up and down arrow key, tab. We'll switch between menus, and the space key doubles as both a return key and a select key. These four file systems, not a lot of difference between them except for this one. This is going to not write data to disk, which means you have to be very careful with how you shut it down, or you will not keep your data. You're going to lose it, so don't select this one. Just going to go with the ext4 file system. The data you would save, I really doubt it's worth the fact that you can make one little mistake and lose everything. Hit enter again. Find your time zone. This here is important. Do not forget your root password. You could forget your admin password if you wanted to. You can recover that from root, but if you don't remember root, you might as well just delete it and reinstall the whole thing. Here we get into what really makes IPFire fairly unique. They color code their networks. Green network means all servers that are wired into a local network. They talk to each other directly. The red network is the open internet. Unless you specifically allow things, everything by default is blocked, meaning nothing from the internet can come in and nothing within your server can leave. So blocked up pretty good. The orange is a demilitarized zone. Those are public servers that everyone can access. So I reckon you could use it for something like a client interface. A blue is a wireless network server. This is, think of the Wi-Fi at Walmart's and McDonald's, and you can, that's what that's for. We're just going to go green and red because we only installed 2 network cards, and you'll see it when you try to select this. It'll say you only have 2 available. So green and red. Driver and card assignments. Here you got a 50-50 shot of getting it right. If it's not right, you can just come back and change it later if it won't ping. Address settings. Your home network, you're going to set up with a static IP, which just starts with 192.168, and then here these last two, it can be anything between 0 and 256. So whatever you can remember fairly easily. Red can just be DHCP. That means you're automatically assigning an IP, a different IP to it every time. It's dynamic. Don't worry about this either. It's red, so it's going to take care of that automatically. After you've finished your setup, you'll now get to the bash command line. This part right here is why I cannot recommend this to novices. To configure your firewall, you need to get to the web interface. To get to the web interface, you need to go to here and use this information to get to it. Now, we're going to try to verify first the existence of those. So wget, this is just webgit. It's a non-interactive way to download things from the internet. Root can get to everything because root is root. It's the big boss. So firewalls restrictions don't even apply to root. That's why you never want to work in root if you have things already set up. So we're just going to go HTTPS IPFire local domain 444 here. Port 444. We're going to say no check certificate, otherwise it's going to flag a thing saying it's not a checked certificate. Now, I forgot to log in. That's pretty important. Now that you're in root, we're going to do the thing we're going to do before. Bad port number. Now, everything I've looked through says 444 is our only port. We can try it again with our green networks port. 68. Port 444. And again, bad port number. Just to make sure our wget command is responding, we can just return something from youtube.com. And doesn't even resolve the address. So I know one of the other groups was able to find an open source firewall where they were able to access their web interface. I recommend you use that one, not this one. This one I'm sure is very secure and works fine, but it is not user-friendly to novices. I poured a good, I'm sure by this point, 10 hours or so trying to figure this out, and I still haven't gotten there. To shut it down, you can just say shut down H. You can either give a time to do it, or you can just say now. I'm just going to say now, and it'll start shutting down the system. And that is the end of this portion of the presentation. Again, cannot recommend IPFire, not to novices. It's probably terrific for more experienced programmers and network